What are you doing? The funeral home's that way.
We're not going to a funeral. I knew that was the only way to get you in the car.
What the hell? I bought new shorts for that.
You've been going down a bad path lately.
How lately?
About the past 23 years, give or take.
I can't help what I did as a fetus. I'm sorry.
You took me from my apartment just to drive me back to my apartment?
Breaking and entering isn't as fun if you know what's happening.
I'm not an alcoholic.
Your file says otherwise.
Listen, you're an alright guy. Damn near human.
We just want to fix you.
I would have to be mentally broken or not already castrated for you to do that. I'm good.
Oh, alright. How about you just open your Christmas present from this year?
Oh boy, I hope it's a snake.
What the fuck?
Somebody shut him up with some duct tape.
On it.
What the hell? What could possibly be wrong with me?
You're not an RPG guy.
I thought that was my race.
Nope, my bad. Got them mixed up. Hey, good news. We're not getting charged with kidnapping. I just got off the phone with the government, and we're on good terms.
Oh, tell them I said hi.
You know what, Rex? How about you go?
Scott's roommate of 9 months. I think that makes sense.
You're not my roommate.
I thought you knew.
I don't know what RPGs are. But I think you're being a little bitch about them.
Yeah, what are RPGs again?
I don't know what gun.
Do I at least have a chance to explain myself?
This is America, so no!
This isn't America, this is Ohio! It all started 23 years ago, the doctor said. It's not an RPG fan. Contrary to popular belief, I didn't always play video games, which is why there are no records of me prior to 03. This was the year I truly started playing video games, so pretty much the year I was truly born, which you know what that means. I'm a minor. I remember my first experiences with the medium being in the arcade. You know, you go to the laundromat as a kid and you're a big fan of the dryer, but then as soon as you lay eyes on the Galaga in the corner, well, the laundry fandom lost a member. The classics, Pac-Man, Ms. Pac-Man, Galaga, these were my favorites, so you know I'm fun at parties. My first video game experiences, and to this day, they're some of my most beloved titles. Sort of lame to say. Saying you love arcade games and your favorite is Pac-Man is like saying squares are my favorite boxes. Like, yeah, it's true, but who cares? It's such a basic answer. Anybody who hears you like arcade games wants to hear something more elaborate or obscure, but I'm not gonna say I give a shit about clacks for respect. I love those old Namco classics. They were and still are some of my favorite experiences. They're so simple and are pretty much the same song and dance every time you play them, but their gameplay never gets old. Around this time was when I discovered the Nintendo Entertainment System. It was hooked up at my grandma's house in the den area. I remember distinctly a goldfish cracker was lodged in the cartridge slot. Yeah, try it, it works. This was my cousin's old system and he left it there alongside a shoebox full of games. These are human teeth. Super Mario Brothers and Duck Hunt. I easily played this one the most. Keep in mind, I really fucking hated ducks. Using the Zapper gun was so cool, and swapping over to Super Mario Brothers let me live out my fantasy of looking at sewage-colored man. Super Mario Brothers 3 was there too. God, what a game. Every time I play it, I discovered something new. holy shit. Excite Bike and Ninja Turtles 1 and 3 and Kung Fu Heroes and Adventures of Bayou Billy because there always has to be a 7th. But I didn't want to be a mooch, I wanted to be this. So I eventually received my other cousin's hand-me-down Sega Genesis Model 2. It came with a cartridge of Sonic the Hedgehog and I officially gave up on life. This opened a world of possibilities and closed another. I'm a video game owner now. Mom! Sonic the Hedgehog was the first standalone video game I ever owned. I played it so much I couldn't get past the second zone. Me personally, I blame the controller. Why did I always play with butter in my hands? Eventually for my birthday, I received a purple Game Boy Advance, my first brand new game system. The game I got with it? Sadly, this was after my butter phase. Licensed kids games were abundant, and I played them for all they were worth. However, I also had Mario Kart Super Circuit, Yoshi's Island, Super Mario Advance 3, and Super Mario Advance 2 Super Mario World. This was my game. I played this to death. Until I got stuck at this one part where you finish a level and then the world map tells you to go f*** yourself. I love the world, the power-ups, that sense of discovery. This was my first true video game love. Throughout that year, I got really into shapes, so for my next birthday, I got a GameCube alongside the Game Boy Player attachment, letting me play all my Game Boy games on the TV. I mainly owned just licensed games for the console, but still adored it nonetheless. I had to go to my friend's house to play actual video games, like Pac-Man Fever. That Christmas, I received a blue Game Boy Advance SP and a colorblind diagnosis. A few years later, I snagged my cousin's PlayStation alongside a disc-only copy of Gran Turismo and the demo for Rascal. I didn't play this much. 2007, I got a Nintendo DS Lite, and by 2008, I got my Wii, and I played so much Wii Sports and Wii Play, Mario Galaxy, Smash Bros. Brawl, GoldenEye 007, Mario Kart Wii, WarioWare Smooth Moves, alongside discovering my love for the history of gaming. I could download classic titles with this system, even the ones I played at my grandma's house. There was no need for her anymore. That was roughly my childhood gaming experience. After this, while I still received some game systems as gifts, I was a lot more conscious of the stuff I wanted. I wasn't as dependent on whatever my parents thought I might like. I knew I wanted a Wii U because it was better than wanting meth, but I didn't even scratch the surface of all the Nintendo 64 I played at others' houses, each and every game I owned and what they meant to me, how I played and couldn't get past the first level for dozens of hours of Frogger's Adventures on Game Boy Advance, a 40-minute long game. But hopefully this gave you a good idea as to what I was raised on, what games and consoles made me who I am today. Notice how Lufia 2 wasn't mentioned?
As your therapist, I think you should be open to more things, like RPGs and murder.
I've tried RPGs!
And I've tried murder. It doesn't count till you like it.
So what are RPGs again?
Isn't it a political party in Guinea?
Why are you so hell-bent on me being an RPG guy? You don't even know what RPGs are!
Yeah, I do.
Political party in Guinea.
We've been over this.
I always thought it was like a BLT, but for ranch peas and grapes.
Why did you all give me Xenoblade?
Oh, that's an RPG? I didn't even know Xenoblade was pronounced like that. I thought we got you an enema.
Yeah, I was wondering why you didn't shove this up your ass.
No! Based on my childhood gaming experiences, it should be fairly obvious I enjoy more arcadey games. Now, what does that mean? Outside of me being wrong, well, it doesn't mean it has to be from the arcade. More so, it retains elements of arcade gameplay. Look at Pac-Man, for example. I can all day. Quick reflexes, simple controls, easy to grasp concept, anybody can pick it up and play, but very few can master it. Have you seen professional Pac-Man players? No, they live in the Vatican. The concepts at play here really matter to me. If a game is like this at all, I'm gonna sleep well that night. This is probably why platforming is my favorite genre of gaming. You run and jump, it can't get much simpler than that. To anybody who has an argument against that, my mom never got Tetris. Pong? My grandma said, what the f is that? But with platformers, I mean, they would 100% not be able to play them well, but they at least understand what you're supposed to do and the objective. It's just like life. Get to the end. Running and jumping, there are an endless amount of things you can do with that. You can be a plumber, an evil plumber, a plumber's girlfriend. I value simplicity at face value, where like, oh, this is super easy to get, but when you dig deeper, you find all these elements that add up to the game being as good as it is. So just because my favorite genre is platformers doesn't mean I'll get sweaty for Leps World 2. No, you take games like Super Mario Galaxy, Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, Sonic Mania, Mega Man X, Celeste, you start playing them and immediately you're like, I get it. I understand how to play, what to do, and why people give a shit. But then you start to notice amazing design details that went into all aspects of the gameplay, realizing, wow, this game is a masterclass of design. This affects that, and that can't be there without this. That's what turns an already great game into a masterpiece. I love the pick up and play nature of platformers, how you get instant gratification when you jump. You're like, wow, I did that. When you defeat an enemy, when you just barely cross a gap, there's a rhythm to it all. It may be one of the most generic video game genres, like it's what I immediately think of when video game gets brought up, but I think it's for good reason. That doesn't mean I'm opposed to other genres. I love puzzle games for a lot of the same reasons. Rhythm games can be incredibly satisfying and addictive. Adventure games are a dream to get completely submerged in. Shooters I'm awful at, but they can be a blast.
Get to the f***ing Xeno shit!
I don't like RPGs. Now, what is an RPG? Why would you ask me? Role-playing games are games where the player controls the actions of a character and / or several party members immersed in some well-defined world.
Oh. So what does that make me?
An abuser.
Technically speaking, this genre definition can be linked to pretty much most games regardless of genre. Take any game. You are controlling the actions of a character and are immersed in a well-defined world. The definition of an RPG can be a bit hazy. I've seen people call the fucking economy an RPG. But you can't fool me. RPG is just like a cloud. I know one when I see it. Oh, there's no debate. Let us go into some of the characteristics of traditional RPGs. Number 1, elf shit. Fantasy is generally the go-to genre of the genre. It kind of stems from the origins of video game RPGs, which were tabletop RPGs like Dungeons & Dragons. I'll stick to Yahtzee. Of course, an RPG can be set in any kind of world, but just like how puzzle games love the colored shape trope, fantasy is the go-to here. And there's nothing wrong with that. Some of my best friends are a fantasy.
So what's the big deal? I love fantasy, put out 3 letters, I'm sold.
Yeah, seems to me you don't have much of an argument here.
Like Stalin.
Stalin f***ing hated RPGs, but loved Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze.
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
okay,
Yeah, okay, so
I'm into it.
We're on the same
like
page.
that. Yeah,
It
yeah,
makes sense.
so,
It
yeah.
makes sense.
But-
Absolutely.
yeah,
I get it.
but-
I get
good
it now.
point.
Good point. Better point.
Yeah.
Better
Not Blink Smash Geist or Burnout Crash, not Mario Party 6 or Ultra Smash, neither Clubhouse Games or Wii Fit Plus, nor Family Feud on SNES. All the games I play, whether good or bad, have tropes in common, my favorite two dads. They may be rushed or plain or flawed, but they ain't RPGs, oh thank God. Are my tastes just bad? Am I the one to blame? Or is it RPGs that are dumb and lame?
No.
Why don't you play them? They just take so damn long to complete. Why don't you play them? 60 hours just to rinse and repeat.
But you could grind for years just to beat that puzzle.
Why waste all this time on just one game? Why don't you play them?
I just don't like them. I just want to play stupid Nintendo games that aren't that stupid.
Why don't I like them?
Okay.
Turn-based battles and too much text. I'd rather be out not having sex. Menu clutter and useless stats. And random encounters can kiss my ass. No gameplay till hours in. Combat ready? How did I win? Same thing happens over again. And that their fun part comes up when? I missed one thing and now I'm lost. That 1 inch of text really meant a lot. There's some shop with items I can't afford. So grind for money, you won't be bored. I'm tired, I'm scared, I'm not having fun. There's no other way this can be spun. What do I do? What do I check? It's an RPG. What did I expect? Why don't you play them? They're so good. Listen, guys. You can have opinions. Why don't you play them? They're not my style. Why don't you? Number 2, wait your turn, f***er. The de facto setup for RPGs most think of is the turn-based RPG. I don't want to wait to be disappointed. This isn't a pregnancy. So let's look at how a turn-based RPG works. You're exploring this vast world and experiencing a story as it unfolds. That's the point of most RPGs, to create a universe that you want to get lost in. Tell a story unlike any other with some of the most memorable characters out there. This is why video games are such a popular medium to tell stories through. You are a character. This story is happening to you. Your friends in the game start to feel real if it's done right. Most role-playing games heavily depend on an engaging story, and of course stories need conflict, so what happens when danger strikes? Well, I'm walking around enjoying myself thinking, what's next? Homicide. Here's a list of things I can do. I can attack. I usually perform some special ability like existence. Well, that didn't do a damn thing. Or just give up, run, bitch out, they don't care. So I select what I want to do, I watch the character do what I told them to do, then it's the enemy's turn, because it's only fair. They attack, thanks. And then we're back to me. I'll probably attack again. Actually, it might be a good time to heal myself with some medicine. Good, I brought Dayquil. Alright, and it's their turn again. They attack. And now we're back to me again. Alright. Obviously, there's nothing inherently wrong with turn-based battles. It's a time-tested gameplay style. If it was completely outdated and uninteresting, it would have been ripped out of games eons ago. There's a reason text-based adventure games died out and their technology is being reused on Tinder. We still get turn-based battles in games constantly. They obviously work. There is depth here, and most video game players like them. The biggest media franchise on the planet is Pokemon, and it's a turn-based RPG. It works. But want to see why Scott's a fucking idiot?
I can see it!
So the point of a role-playing game is to make me feel as if I'm playing a role. If I'm supposed to be immersed as this character, why are battles set up like this? This is potentially the worst way to immerse me in an experience. When would my mortal enemy bat number 4 wait for me to pick an attack and then let her rip? Why would I give them a chance to hurt me? That's just counterproductive! In going through my list of attacks I can perform, it doesn't make me feel like I'm the one performing them. It feels like I'm commanding that character to do it. Turn-based combat almost feels at odds with the rest of what these games are trying to do. If it's trying to make me feel as if I am the character, going to the extent of having me name them myself, why are the battles like puppet shows? Well, I guess you could view RPGs as a performance. The origins of tabletop RPGs, you announce everything you're doing as if it's a book being written right there on the spot. So there's some showmanship to it all. It's a role-playing game, so it's like these are actors taking on the roles of these characters. So again, why can I name this guy myself if I'm playing the role of him? Most of the time, the actor doesn't pick the character's name. I just don't feel like I'm doing anything in these battles. Clicking through a menu doesn't feel like I'm accomplishing anything, and landing a great attack, I just don't feel incredibly accomplished. I selected a menu option. I'll play Pac-Land for that, thank you. Taking turns just slow things down so much. Like, what is he waiting for? Just shoot me! To be fair, I mean, it does offer strategy. You have to sit and think sometimes. Like, how do I want this man to gut me? Not every game should have action-packed combat. It's good to have options. I just fucking hate this one. Out of all the games to have a ton of enemy encounters, why do these have random enemy placements that don't need to be there? Like, I could give a shit about your Goomba placement, but these random encounters happen out of nowhere. You don't even see where the enemies are. You just randomly get thrown into a battle. You can't easily avoid this, and when you're in the battle itself, it takes just as long as any standard battle in the game. Battles that are required for progression.
Well, it's more fun to get shot by surprise than to know ahead of time.
Well, I guess random encounters are here because another big element of RPGs are experience points, leveling your character up from string cheese weak to being stronger than any being. I can do anything now. I can stomach playing Final Fantasy. Number 4, feeling like you did something today. Having a visual indication of just how much stronger you get after each and every battle is unbelievably satisfying. I think experience points, or EXP, make RPGs for people. You know just how long it takes to go through a whole battle with an ant. And that ant can kick your ass, like it puts up a fight. But then a few hours in, you level up and you're more powerful. You can one-shot kill those ants. Character development. I'm now better than ants. But you know what you have to do in so many of these games? You have to grind for your experience points. You have to wander around, get into random encounters, and just win a bunch of battles to level up before you progress. Of course, most of the time, you don't have to, but it's kinda necessary if you don't want to stain the carpet with your decapitated head. Grinding almost feels like I'm exploiting the game sometimes. Like, is this really how the game was designed? For me to walk around in circles for 2 hours doing nothing but getting into random battles fighting weak enemies to gain extra experience? I just killed snails for 20 minutes. I'm ready to take on Satan.
Think we have some more to say. Target employee?
He works at Target?
Oh yeah, big time.
I love his work. Did you see how stocked the shelves were today?
Oh yeah, I saw how stocked the shelves were today.
Oh yeah, Scott, you mostly knew my brother. He worked at Wendy's. He was a really good guy. Mostly dead nowadays.
Didn't you work at Wendy's?
He's talking.
His dying wish was to see you play Nier Replicant version 1.224744. I think he was having a seizure.
See, we care about you, man.
My foot's turning purple.
See, you lock yourself out of so many experiences saying you're not an RPG guy. That's the oldest excuse in the book.
Gets me out of jury duty.
What else am I supposed to say?
Why, yes, please. I'll take 1 Suikoden 4.
My parents met over that one.
What about the stories of these games? That's why you play them. So here we have number 5. Incredible, engaging, long-winded, weird-as-hell plots. Video games can house some of the greatest tales ever told, and it seemed like RPGs were the only way to tell those kind of stories years ago. And I think there's a clear reason to make a story into a video game compared to just a movie or a book. It's the experience. There are tons of video game stories that are great. They would blow as a film. The stories of many iconic RPGs play out almost like they're a 4,000-page novel with stupid haircuts. Oh, and you have to do the same thing 400 times. A lot of these stories are great with huge moments of emotion. Character deaths mean more because when you're doing turn-based battles, you often have multiple party members. If one of them died, it stings that much more. It can be so much more effective than other mediums to tell the story. But then you have the other side of RPGs where I can't take this seriously. I am a prince talking to a mechanic. Okay.
I thought I'd adjust my speech here. Scott, the lack of RPGs you play is horrifying, and I've seen bees. Oh, he means it. To show how much we care, I have a surprise witness.
At an intervention?
I present to you K-Swiss of Bankruptcy Patrol.
Oh my god, you got a white guy?
This is Scott's bank account without RPGs. Sure, he's buying them, but he's spending all his time playing and buying other games. If he sat down and played an RPG, he wouldn't have time to waste money on other games.
Well, at least I'm stimulating the economy.
If anything, you're doing immense damage to the economy. You're buying plenty of RPGs, but you have no actual interest in them. Companies think you want RPGs, so they make more, but when more RPGs are announced, you get annoyed and tell people not to play them. Without this issue, people who actually want to play RPGs buy them. Thus, supply and demand return to a renaissance, if you will. We call this issue the Scottless economy. With you actually playing RPGs, we call it an economy.
You son of a bitch, I love the economy!
Now we have one of the big ones. Number 6. These games never fucking end. My god, why do these take so long? Role-playing games are generally on the longer side of things. At the least, they can usually run you 20 hours from start to finish. As somebody who really just wants to experience as many video games as possible, why would I want to play one 50-hour game when I could play 5 10-hour ones? I know many want games to be as long as possible. I saw people complain how Final Fantasy VII Remake was only 30 hours. My weekend's 48 hours, what am I gonna do with that extra 18? I don't know, I personally get a little turned off when I hear how long a game is. I've never been a big, I better be able to squeeze this many hours out of a game kind of guy. But I totally understand if people are like that. It's just, I don't care if a game's 10 hours, that sounds like a pretty sweet length to me. But RPGs are so long because they have so many battles, and so many of those battles are the same things over and over again. It's just the amount of time I spend in these games, I don't feel it's justified. And then we have number 7. Sensory overload. What the f am I looking at? Is this really the least complicated they could have made this menu look? I want to get the Black Desert menu on my back. These games have such thick-ass menu systems with submenus and submenus and tutorials on how to use the menus and honestly fairly unnecessary user interfaces that overcomplicate what could be a simple and intuitive experience.
I think I have something to say here.
Yeah, I do too. That's it.
I feel like you're really blocking yourself from experiences that will truly better your life and outlook on art as a whole. I wrote this when I thought we were still talking about guns.
Okay, and what do you think about role-playing games?
Oh, just don't be a bitch. It is your place.
Yeah, I got an RPG delivery.
Jeb, why didn't you come earlier?
I work today. I love the economy. Oh, I deliver RPGs to at-risk youth. So they grow up to be RPG guys. Here.
This is Madden.
Yeah.
No! No!
Anybody want to rent the second room here?
What are you all RPGs too?
RPGs can be fucking anything. I was talking to someone and they fucking catfished me. I've been only talking about turn-based RPGs, but what about action RPGs, strategy RPGs, MMO RPGs, JRPGs, which is just if a role-playing game is made in Japan. That's it. Action RPGs are like, take out the turns and just make them just normal fights. Oh, hit this button to attack. Oh, thank God. I gotta say though, a lot of action RPGs just feel like hack and slashes or shooters with numbers. MMORPGs, let's take this and pair it up with Omegle. Look at these players online. These are my type of people. We all know how to use menus. Strategy RPGs, I got nothing. These are all such different types of games, and so many games outside of RPGs have RPG elements. You can make an argument that any one of these games are RPGs. Madden, look at all these stats. How is this not an RPG? People constantly make the argument Zelda's an RPG. Sure, keep telling yourself that. It has RPG elements, pretty much any of the sins I mentioned, and then some. I give up. I lost.
I guess I have to become an RPG guy, because if I don't, I can't enjoy anything.
Leap year this year.
It's December.
Oh, food's here.
What is this?
They're ribs.
I thought we were getting a corn dog.
These are nature's corn dogs.
I can't eat ribs. I'm not hungry. And vegan.
Oh, come on, somebody has to. I ordered the economy size.
Let's start with a few that started it all. Dragon Quest and Final Fantasy. Dragon Quest, or Dragon Warrior originally over here in America. Playing this now, it is so simple and basic, but there's a charm to it, and many of the systems we see in RPGs today, they're here in full force. It's weird to say a game like this has aged well, because it hasn't, but when you put it side by side to modern RPGs, you start to notice more similarities than differences. Dragon Quest has always been an RPG staple, primarily in Japan. Over here, it's not as celebrated. Come on, this is America. I like Mickey Mouse and fucking my wife. But Dragon Quest has always been there. I'm surprised how many people I've run into who immediately recognizes the slime enemy from the series. The spin-offs are all over the place, like Dragon Quest Swords on Wii, which is pretty much a Dragon Quest game played in first person with a ton of automated movement and motion control combat. You just swipe away at the enemies, and overall it feels like a Dragon Quest game for a fucking idiot. I love it. But of course, we have Dragon Quest XI-S Echoes of an Elusive Age Definitive Edition. Number 8, ass-long titles. Oh my god. This game is so lovely. Like, it's just so happy. Even when dark moments happen, this is just such a jolly world. These characters' designs are so fun. I'm not a fan of more typical anime-esque designs, but with Dragon Quest, I like this style. It just feels so nice. The characters, the monsters, even the gameplay. I'm sure the battles are more tedious than if it wasn't a traditional RPG, but it's not that annoying. I like this game. I just don't want to spend 100 hours liking it. But then we have Final Fantasy, easily the most iconic RPG series. While Dragon Quest was far more traditional in terms of fantasy world with dragons, beat the evil, Final Fantasy continues to go all over the place. Again, this is a prince. Each Final Fantasy is pretty much completely separate from the last, which is how we get such game titles as Final Fantasy 13-2. The Final Fantasy game I played the most is Final Fantasy VII Remake. I like it, but like I said, action RPGs just don't feel like RPGs to me. They feel like hack and slash games with stats. This series hasn't always been turn-based, and that's not even counting junk like spin-offs. Final Fantasy 11 and 14 are MMORPGs. Am I the only one to find that bizarre that mainline numbered titles in the Final Fantasy series are MMOs? Like, why not make them their own designated spin-off series like Final Fantasy Online, but alright. 15 and 7 Remake are action RPGs, no turns here. This was done to give Final Fantasy more broad appeal and make it so a FIFA fan could play it. So I gotta be honest, I have a lot more fun with this gameplay style, but I almost feel patronized playing it, like I'm too dumb to enjoy the older games, so here's some flashier bullshit.
Yeah, is this stale pretzels? I'd like to place an order. Yeah, the stale pretzels.
Oh, get some ribs.
No, it's stale pretzels. All they have are stale pretzels.
No, if you ask, they'll make it for you.
Yeah, I'll do a side of pretzels.
It's kind of a weird way to say ribs.
My god, is this how he sounded to him?
Depends on how he pronounces ribs.
Of course, if you're more of a classic RPG guy, there are still tons of games releasing that are supposed to be direct callbacks to those older games. Bravely Default and Octopath Traveler. If you're not a fan of modern Final Fantasy, these games bring us back to a simpler, far slower time. Yeah, I'm not as into this. When you program a fast forward button into the base game, I feel like you could have just designed the gameplay to be more efficient. But god, Octopath, there isn't any other game that looks quite like this. And the music! Kingdom Hearts answers the age-old question of what would happen when you put Final Fantasy and Disney together. Actually, I don't know if it does or not. And all these games come courtesy of Square Enix, your one-stop shop for RPGs. They've also released other iconic titles like Chrono Trigger and the Mana series, which is interesting considering it was one of the few classic RPGs that went for an action approach comparative to turn-based. While I highly disagree on The Legend of Zelda being an RPG, at least one entry in the series is definitely one. Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link. You kill enemies to level yourself up in various departments. I like it. Zelda 2 gets a lot of flack, but it's honestly pretty enjoyable. And Nintendo's RPG series, I mean, we have the Mother series, or Earthbound, which has definitely helped many get into RPGs. Most games of this nature were fantasy, which has its fans, but Earthbound you were playing as a kid in a town. It made it stand out, and I think it helped many find more of an attachment with the genre. Now, Pokemon, on the other hand, can fuck right off. I've tried so many times, but I just can't get into Pokemon. I feel like I've 100% missed the boat on playing the franchise. If I played it as a kid, I feel like I'd find it easier to enjoy now. If I start the game, I just feel like it's a slog. I don't feel this sense of wonder. I just feel like I'm walking from point A to point B, mashing the A button to get through text boxes, fighting other Pokemon by, again, mashing the A button. At least turn-based works really well here in terms of immersion. You're not the Pokemon, you're commanding them what to do, which I think works much better contextually than most other RPGs. I want to like these games though, I just can't get into them. Same with the Xenoblade series. I'm so happy that this franchise went from not coming outside of Japan to here's a Smash Brothers character, multiple remasters and remakes, a sequel, another sequel, an expansion to the sequel. It's really cool to see that, and I think the original Xenoblade is unbelievably impressive. Like, this world is in a Wii game. It's just not personally really my thing. But then you have Golden Sun. Definitely gives me Dragon Quest feelings of happiness. I do like a lot about this. But then you have the beginner RPGs from Nintendo, based on the Mario franchise. Super Mario RPG, Mario & Luigi, Paper Mario, many of these games actually make turn-based combat fun. They have action commands, which means, hey, pick an attack, then time your action just right by hitting a button at this exact moment. It's almost like a rhythm game. It keeps me involved and entertained. Sure, some of the games are dog but I think these games help tremendously in conveying the appeal of RPGs to those who don't play a ton of them. No matter how much you enjoy role-playing games, you have to admit, they aren't the easiest to jump into most of the time. You gotta wean yourself on a Mario RPG before you jump into Persona 5. Holy f***, this game is so stylish and cool. Listen to the music, the setting is so neat.
I think I've become an RPG guy!
Scared me. Who knows what you're capable of giving us?
And I fucking hate myself! What am I? What have I become? How do I even use one of these? Ah! Oh! And you went insane after therapy sessions with you about 3 games caused you to question faith. That's my obituary. Okay.
Hello, my name is Guy.
Why?
Oh
it sounds like a good thing to have
Jesus,
my
History began in 1988.
Oh, we should
really
do
started in
something
2007. And ever since, people
Like
of
to
all
play some Fling
times have
Smash
banded
Order?
together to not only celebrate the
Wait,
yearly
what?
football video game franchise Madden, but pick an entry.
Yeah, I'll go with Fling Smash this time.
Pretty good, right? Don't you stand there thinking
Bryce, it's been a busy day for us. 2 deliveries?
This economy's about to be the fucking best.
So I thought you just delivered RPGs.
Well, RPG can mean a lot of different things. For example, like when you're really playing Gex.
Each and every Madden game has a different
Hey, if you want to Gex?
No. I have to.
God, I want the economy.
I just wanted to give you a formal warning.
Turned it to 11. This game can cure all kinds of depression. Madden 24.
I don't want to f anything. What did I do wrong?
First off, that time you drank that
Madden
water
football?
in
No,
my
I've
face.
seen it all. Shows how the mighty
I
just
made water.
refuse to
Second
fall.
off, you're trying to be an RPG guy.
I thought that's what everybody wanted.
See, I crafted you and have the instinctive
Yeah, I
trait
know. I
to
hate
not
talking
like
politics,
RPGs.
but everybody has a right to Madden. Just ask the Madden 3DS community. Those guys get it.
Here's
Madden
Overhead
Overdrive?
64,
Not a bad
person of
idea.
lordly
Sports,
caliber,
you
the
continue to
famous game that everybody
What's their
loves,
bottom
and
goal?
ever since
Madden
then,
Football.
I've walked
Listen,
around playing
Madden
RPGs.
CD, why can't these things start?
It's normal to not like all kinds of
way. It's Nirvana.
RPGs from my
Therapist, don't you get yourself
You have my guarantee.
You're not an RPG. You know this deep down. That is the leadership.
If I finish your session,
Every RPG you come across. RPGs were never meant to be.
Not you.
People like this.
we need to end this now. I have my family, and I gotta finish this before then. So I don't show up and say, you're a therapist.
Yeah, I like this.
You're a therapist. Good to know. You're gonna be the best therapist a therapist will ever ask. You're gonna do great.
I'm not an RPG guy. RPGs are my go-to genre, and that's okay. Just like how everybody doesn't like platformers or sports games. My criticism of RPGs were just opinions. They're the same reason why people love RPGs. It's okay. That doesn't mean I can never like RPGs.
Celebrating the best years of 2018, it's the Yearly.
He's at
He said some square. A blue square neck.
Anyway, it's good to see this back. Pokemon Sword and Shield back. About the game for not as invested in this but I will say it's really nothing. Empire of Sword makes me regret this. Does that mean to upset? Marvel Ultimate Alliance Surge is now. No, I'm fine with saying I don't think this game is exactly Nintendo's budget is so small. But it baffles me that the billion-dollar company has progress like NES series. Hyrule gets released next, right? I mean, there's no game I was more excited by this one. Give me Mario Party. Mario Party grab that. And Mario and Sonic at the different Mario Party. Nowhere near as good as the hype of Okay, we're getting another Smash Bros. Reveal. This is a run by the PK Road trailer. Oh, Banjo-Kazooie is in Smash Bros. Or Banjo-Kazooie. I would have been fine with any of them. Definitely more into Banjo out of all these franchises. So the person who was in Master Banjo's kind of more of an edited more of itself, might be of higher quality. I keep rewatching this trailer. It's so nice to see these games back on the Nintendo. I hope this means we get a fun idea. But there's only 10 different mini-games that can appear in this game. Kind of repeat fairly right there. It's really too easy. Of course they were going to make a sequel off of the Wild. I expected if it was going to happen, they were going to announce it by 2020. But it was the execution. They got so much breakthrough concepts in Super Mario Party. Nintendo definitely won all votes. In the middle of the direct, one of them. Okay, it's definitely a fun time with friends. Too strong to give it. Now I know not everybody has access to the older Mario Party. Nintendo was okay, but with Sony, people always say how easy it is to things like that are exaggerated a bit. If you're definitely dying to see Nintendo, I hope it's just because Microsoft and Sony are preparing to go into the next generation. But regardless, the Wii U library. Okay, Remastered finally came out. That didn't grab me immediately. I'll definitely try it again for sure. Regardless, this is the only one that did somewhat okay. Definitely did this game really didn't sell well. It was put on sale almost immediately after Mega Man 11. No, it did fairly well, and I really enjoyed it. It has a great look to it. It was pretty lame by Mega Man standards. It was long. Turns out most of the brothers over which we go in the Mega Man. Right here. I think 95% of future games to get into a riskier replicated. Go down there right now. Finish them 11 to 15. I know what they say. Big title was let's go to let's get them out here. Best Buy, things aren't going our way and we need attention. It's obviously made for demo it is. Pokemon Go fan. Game titles. I wasn't like, man, I got free playing. It is probably time to get attention. Maybe we get our attention like gameplay games. A lot of people praise this game. Since I've got no man, they took it a little too far. It was really lost in the really good way.
colors.
Should be simpler than boring games. I
just thought that's what water looked like now.
There's no reason for general for that matter. It doesn't look much for no reason.
Anybody has a phone? Stop. I can tell you how many times I've been around this man.
Damn, man! Stop using your throat!
Carnival games, guys. It's fast.
There's a big blue border that's gonna eat it.
Here, even I'm a very thorough.
At the end!
You're not supposed to pretty subpar
Now that's what I call a good point.
Why not stand? I don't trust them. I picked up my mobile Final games over Black Friday. I got a box copy of Bayonetta 2 for like $30, but I also went to Berserk on the eShop. Finally got Doom, Travel Light, board games, Jacob games, software sales, why not? Yeah, Smash Brothers came out this month. Let's talk about that. Smash Brothers Ultimate single-handedly I'm tired! You're a terrible game! I'm better than that! That's all I really say whenever somebody asks like these about Smash Brothers Ultimate. A banner in front of a really good Smash Brothers gameplay is gooder than it's ever been. I'm in a field. That's why I don't trust the centuries. I'm standing here mind-boggling. Harrisville stages in the game will pop up and I'll go outside. Inside. I forgot. Various I have However, it's single-player offers on a great single-player options for variety. Nintendo Quiz game came out on the eShop. Fighter play single-player-wise, it's basically non-stop.
Stop putting in Spirit Battle!
Also, specific saves, missions that are supposed to be these 4 days after ass battle! Light, it's fundamentally just something about the JPEG by the
Hey, God, you know what this means? No, it doesn't matter. They're wrong anyway.
I'm good on my own. I think I'm going to start my own therapy.
Like the moon. Oh my God, for real? Oh yes, guys, we're sure this is going to
Now most of these complaints are using the best Switch games of 2019. I'm not joking. These Switch games are like Smash Ultimate and these things are not the most fun things. We're fun enough to play for first. I found myself playing 30 minutes of World like you just gotta try a couple of things I can say about a game. This part about the game is mediocre or better. Everything else is pretty spot on. That's when you know it's a good game. Especially after the last one.
That includes Shallow.
And countless others were asking for Smash Bros. Not because we were trying for a Smash game.
We've got nothing else to do today!
We got alternate direct more than happy to say same day as by it's hard to find a physical copy of this game.
It's gotta be
that IRS. Not a fan of the overall we gotta save the world. We gotta save the day. I know you all don't have something, so you may be out of this way. You don't want new cataracts. Would the past be end as well? You got
chances you all might as well. We can't give up, at least not yet. We gotta try. I can't lose this bet. We're the only ones capable of ending this fable. So we must install
What the hell was this?
this so counts as a fight. Take your neighbors and pop it on your closest head. Loyalty, no dignity, not hope the world be dead. It's our duty to fight back after borders came to dwell. When else does this ever happen? So we all might as well. Might as well. Stand up and unite, strength combined can take the fight, because it's up to us and with some that will watch the borders demise. And if unaware before, prepare yourself, cause this is war. There's not much time before we incline wherever border lies.
Gloves channel, all you kind of do is fight bosses. Nintendo don't care. And you're Super Mario Brothers Deluxe. I played enough new Super Mario Brothers U. I didn't want to contract anything again, so I haven't picked this one up. If anything, this version is worse than the Wii U release. The releases of the game already included all the DLC, plus it had boost mode, which allowed how each games had and challenges. They took all that out and they had to throw that as a playable character. So with that, they made it so that if you play multiplayer, one very bold advantage because you know they all have it has separate builds. The gameplay is just Mario and Wii U versions of it all together.
Nothing!
Dumb. This really when this title gives me have their side and again a new Wii SNES game. Some developers I gave the demo a whirl, and it does offer a decent workout. We think games are more fun, but if you're looking for a fitness game, it's fun enough. You can get your own swing. Grab the Axe Again, No More Heroes, finally released. And it really wasn't a lot of No More Heroes. We're adding NES games are fun. Yeah, it would have been way better if the obscure were lost by getting most of the best NES games are already here. It wasn't the craziest part. The lack of a direct was really depressing. Because what are Nintendo fans expected to talk about? Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe? Holy shit. Alright, we're here. Last month, and it was a pretty packed one. With SNES controller. Konami doesn't connect to the game started and ended. Super Mario Maker 2 opened the show up. I don't think anybody could come up with anything negative to say about it. It did everything I wanted for a Mario Maker sequel. Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening ended the show. Vegas makes the Game Boy game. It's a little worried this may be like Let's Go Rain Age got announced. Intelli guessed casual Game Boy game their day. So you know, September was absolutely exact, and not announced. And Nintendo everything else in the direct kind of reeked. The middle was just filled with games that did not interest me all too much. A lot of RPGs I wasn't into and just understand what the success. People just want to buy Dead by Daylight and Assassin's Creed 3 remastered to the TV. Why did they look this bad? I get it. For some reason, Hellblade is coming to the Switch system.
Why are you doing this?
Astro Train was a new Platinum Games exclusive title, which fine, but somehow I think that name is kind of dumb. Captain Toad is getting DLC. New box for it, and literally stuff like Super Mario Party for Dragon Quest 11. I get it. Nintendo really pushed Dragon Quest. This is the definitive edition. It was great on the system. But nuts. 4 minutes on a game that released last year were always saved by the announcement that a few games coming into the direct. Top it up against Tetris Class 99. You against 98 other people. There's not much to this game. It's just Tetris with 99 players. They did years ago. Pick up and play games. This thing's finally a reason to get Nintendo Switch is nice. Alright, we're ending
this.
I have a
Guys,
free
I know we're trying to mitigate our
Xbox
social
Live because
Game Pass is our We're going to win here by being the bestest we can be.
Come out of one time. Be amazing. More games on the Switch, including games I would have never pictured playing on Nintendo console. It's just so cool. Later in the smaller screen and shield were a bit sharper. Well, smaller size kind of reunites 2019 with playing their Pokemon games. That's for sure. Saw a fair amount of people express disappointment. I've actually gotten to see these content games much.
like used to be 3DS games. I think they look pretty good visually overall, but there's obviously areas that could use a lot of improvement, and graphically it doesn't regret. Well, that took about 4 years off my life, and I finally got through the Switch's second year on the market, and overall I hate Nintendo. But really though, the best way to describe this year was disappointing. 2018 was just not the greatest follow-up year to 2017. It was such a filler year for Nintendo's offerings. I mean, really think about it. How many in-house Nintendo-made games came out? Like, other than Labo and older games, I don't really. They just published second and third-party titles. They obviously just rode this year out and banked on Pokemon to save it, and they were completely right because they did. While I love Smash Bros. Ultimate, and throughout the year the upcoming release of the game made things interesting, the year itself was pretty lackluster overall. I feel like Nintendo used 2018 to quietly work on a lot of future games because it's obvious 2019 is going to be filled with a lot more heavy-hitting first-party titles. Mario Maker 2, Animal Crossing, Link's Awakening, there's so much coming. 2019 feels exactly how 2013 felt with 3DS gameplay. That was one of the handheld best years. Luigi's Mansion, Pokemon, 2D Zelda, Animal Crossing, Fire Emblem, and the Wii Shop titles. All games with as coming in 2019 that the 3DS had in 2013. That's pretty stoked. But still, in terms of last year, Nintendo's support for 2018 was underwhelming.
All we're doing is
their big new games.
Just let us go, and everybody will be fine.
Plain lacking in content or underwhelming. Sure, we got a lot of the Wii U's greatest hits, but those are old games. I already played them. Now, of course, I don't speak for the people who never played games like Tropical Freeze or Captain Toad and who played them for the first time. They're great games. They deserve to be played by everybody. But they're also old ones for a lot of people, including me. I still like ports on the Switch, but I want them to supplement new games coming out, not fully replace them. And ports are fundamentally 90% of the Switch's library. Don't get me wrong, I want every game ever made on the Switch too. It's incredibly convenient to have so many games from different kinds of consoles and time periods on an all-in-one portable home console. There's always something to play on this system. But the fact that the vast majority of this library is old, it makes the system less exciting sometimes. It gives the system less character since it's primarily characterized by titles that it can't call its own, which is weird to say about a Nintendo system. Like I said, I like having these ports and older games on the Switch, but that's almost all that comes to the system. I want to see more new original titles released, both from Nintendo and third parties. But with Nintendo, they're almost out of Wii U games to port over, and thinking about some of the games they have left, I think Mario 3D World will make the jump. This game would feel way more at home on the Switch than it did on the Wii U, especially with the two Joy-Con and instant co-op multiplayer. I'd be more than okay with the Paper Mario Color Splash port, just because ditching the Wii U gamepad would make this game way better. Wonderful 101 would definitely benefit from one. Yoshi's Woolly World. It would be nice if they put out Hyrule Warriors Definitive Edition and combine the content from the 3DS and Wii U versions. Pikmin 3 is probably going to happen. I'd prefer a Pikmin HD collection though, or better yet, Pikmin 4 for God's sakes. I prefer much older games remastered compared to Wii U ports. I just played a lot of these games a few years ago. Remaster some much older titles. Obviously because that would be a lot more work, but still, I would rather see some remasters. Of course, you may say, with all this old game talk, but Scott, there are loads of original games on the Switch. Not everything's a port or an old game. Well, yeah, there has to be some great original games, but I can't find them in the like shovelware. The Nintendo Switch eShop is horrendous. Every time I log on, it lags and stutters more and more because too many games are releasing. Well, that must be a good thing, right? No, of course not. Most of these games nobody has ever heard of and nobody wants to play. I think this is just porn. eShop desperately needs an overhaul. Nintendo added this feature tab, but it doesn't really do a good job highlighting games you might not have heard of. It mainly just showcases games we all know are on the system. Speaking of the eShop, I already said this last year, but I really wish Nintendo would put out more smaller games on there like they used to do on the 3DS. Just throw out random things on there like Push Mode or Super Clips and completely original games. That would have definitely helped things out when there wasn't a ton coming out I was itching to play. I feel like Sushi Striker would have been the perfect game. But unlike Push Mode or Skipper Clips, just for downloadable titles at a low price, Sushi Striker came out at retail for $50, and that's a major problem in general with Switch content. There has rarely been a great deal when it comes to Switch accessories or games. It's been a thing since launch, but it's been especially noticeable this year when something like Kirby Star Allies comes out for $70. Kirby Planet Robobot for $40 and had more content. Capcom recently revealed that Resident Evil 1, 0, and 4 would cost $30 each when they cost $20 on the PS4
on Xbox One. If you want more Monkey Ball, I guess publishers are pricing Switch-related items crazy high just because they know they can, and it's ridiculous. I've recently started playing Resident Evil 4, and I adore it. I was gonna buy the Switch version on the release entry. It's because it's released an entry not many want. I do quite enjoy the Switch, and while I finally remember in somewhat missed the days of 2017 when we only got 20 games a month, albeit good games, I'm happy that it's been this monumental of a success. I want to see it succeed and become better, which is why I'm very critical of it right now. This isn't the charming little console that could from 2017 anymore. This is a legitimate platform with thousands of games ranging from retro to indie to AAA releases, which makes the problems that are still here after they could have been fixed since launch that much more irritating. We're still what's wrong with this company? Better online service, more new original games from third parties, a better lineup of legacy content from Nintendo, a more robust operating system for God's sakes. This whole we're focusing on games at launch was cute, but it's been 2 years, Nintendo. This is ridiculous. No internet browser, no way to browse social media. You can post to it, but not browse it. No menu feed, no folders, still no Netflix. Oh my god. I want the Switch to be the best console it can possibly be. So when Nintendo does something that I find underwhelming or just plain bad, I'm gonna talk about it in a tone that'll make any grandmother faint. I didn't personally find 2018 that crazy exciting on the games front, but that doesn't mean the system is bad. Far from it. The last year was sort of lackluster for me, so 2019 is going to definitely be an improvement, and I'm legitimately excited for the future of this console.
The Nintendo Switch has potential to be one of the greatest systems of all time. It just needs to fix a few things. The eShop needs better design, the overall quality of the online service needs to be improved, the releases of newer and older titles should be much more evened out, needs to refrigerate food better, kill 99.9% of germs, eat my vegetables, tell me ghost stories, drive my cousins to school, and if it does all that, then I think we have a winner.
From a blue border corpse, Katie's favorite for Rumble's best of my days. It's a lot more you can talk, but worse than you thought. But there's no bullying that makes it
Initially played it back in 2014, I thought it was good. Now, after recently replaying it for the first time, I consider it to be one of the greatest quality games of all time. This game is another really good one. I wouldn't say it tops Tropical Freeze. I unfortunately
this up. I love me a good Professor Layton game where it seems to be exactly that. New Super Lucky's Tale was a quality 3D platformer. It originally released on the Xbox One as an exclusive, but we probably on Switch. I personally have no clue exactly how much newer it is, and I know they changed them quite a bit, but that is still pretty solid time. Nothing mind-blowing. That's Smash Brothers Ultimate was updated, formerly Easy to Carry to the World. Nintendo Surprise released an eShop multiplayer with stretchers, and I'd be lying if I said I knew about this game. And Overwatch 2 was it ever again. I'd be lying if I said I knew anything about this game. It was surprisingly light. This Black Friday happened, so good for consumers. There have been quite a few titles I just didn't get around to. While all this work away after Nintendo was offering a Switch bundle with Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, was a big deal this year. The celebration of $100. And it also wasn't the new Switch, it was better battery life. The next part of Switch 5th anniversary release. Oddly enough, at this point, I'm pretty happy that barely much happened after November. Remember that time when I wouldn't shut up about September 2019 for the Switch? Yeah, that was hell. Here's Assassin's Creed Rebel Collection. Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag actually released on Switch. It was nice and it ran a whole lot better than 3 ever did. It came with Assassin's Creed Rogue, thus they had to give it a STEM collection name instead of just calling it Assassin's Creed 4. Sadly, Rogue wasn't on the game card, which is pretty lame. They had to download it. And equally as lame, Call of War is Gunslinger released as kind of only. They were competent enough to release it at retail. That gives them an excuse to go hog wild for it. I want to know if anybody actually buys these download code only cases. What's the point? Brain Age Nintendo Switch trading Mario Kart Live, you're getting it on January 3rd. And yup, it was Brain Age. But many reviewers noted how it felt a little unevolved from previous iterations, and because of that, it connects a little out of place on the system. Like just the fact that it came with a bonus stylus to use, it just makes the game on Switch feel as organic as it did on DS or 3DS. This is a series they should have released on smartphones. It feels a little out of place here, but for what it is, pretty good. You know, it's like American release so far, sadly. I want to play this cool experience. Have to import it. Mario Maker 2 actually got an update. Definitely something I power up that turns you into Link with his own full moveset. Listen, really cool. But they put this out way too late. Like, come on, nearly half a year after the game came out, we got our first substantial content update. The original Mario Maker got stuff out way quicker than that. By this time, many have moved on from Mario Maker 2. Well, at least there was another indie world fast game, massive update. Rexy versus also, the Game Awards has following up last year's reveals of Joker and Smash and Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3, Nintendo reveals Square Enix's Bravely Default 2, and that's it. Thank God December was light. Thank God the next few months have been some of the driest in Nintendo Switch history. Remember the Switch? Well, Nintendo barely did for the first few months of 2020. Tokyo Mirage Sessions showed that the Encore, but I'm happy that happened. It was good, it deserved more of a chance than what it got on Wii U. It just doesn't appeal to me, so I skipped out on this one. I bought it on Wii U, damn it, I did my part. Other than that, not much of note to be released. But we did get some updates. The 5th and final DLC character in the Smash Bros. Ultimate Fighters Pass was revealed. In a lineup of third-party characters, most of which nobody would have ever expected to be in Smash Bros., the final character in this pack was some sap from Fire Emblem. The playable character from Fire Emblem Three Houses, Byleth, was the character revealed via a live stream hosted by Sakurai, so I actually had a thought cross my mind right before the stream happened. I mean, everybody was going crazy speculating, but I thought, well, I was pretty sure it would be another third-party character. This was a live stream dedicated to a specific Smash Bros. Announcement. And what characters get announced a lot during Smash Bros. Dedicated live streams? Fire Emblem characters. I mean, I don't care. There are characters I want in the game, but the roster is so huge at this point, they can add whoever they want in my opinion. Also, side note, this is just a random thought I've had lately. As much as new characters getting announced for Smash Bros. Is such a big event in gaming that I love, I almost would prefer if they focused on adding stuff via DLC that Ultimate's lacking in, like more single-player modes. Mainly because the one thing the game is for sure not lacking in is the character roster. Anyways, yeah, sure, go ahead, add this character, but I sure do not care. I mean, the fact that this is the 8th Fire Emblem character is one thing, but they couldn't have picked a more uniquely designed Three Houses character. Byleth just looks like a slightly tweaked Martha Lucina to me. Now, the character itself plays differently enough. I don't personally like playing as them, but I can at least appreciate how different they play compared to the rest of the Fire Emblem cast. But still, this wasn't my first pick for a Smash Bros. Character. This wasn't my pick in general, but oh well. Many people were pretty upset. You have the people who whined non-stop about it, and then the people who were annoyingly rubbing it in others' faces that they wanted Byleth. Both needed to calm down. But of course, with me being critical, I will definitely be associated with the whiners, so might as well let this one out. I keep seeing people say how Three Houses is huge now, so Nintendo's capitalizing on its success with a Three Houses character in Smash Bros. Listen, over 2 million copies, that ain't small. That's great to see for a series like this. But I wouldn't consider that huge. Like, Splatoon 2 is the second entry in a 5-year-old franchise, and it sold nearly 10 million copies. Why haven't we gotten another Splatoon character as DLC? Kirby Star Allies sold over 2 million copies. God, I don't know. I don't mind this character, but they definitely did not excite me at all, and a lot of the reasonings people gave for why they were included. A Pokemon Direct was held, announcing a remake of the first Mystery Dungeon game, with a demo releasing right then and there. After that Byleth talk, I am scared shitless to say my opinion on this. I didn't like it, but the art style was cute. For the love of God, move on. Pokemon Sword and Shield DLC was announced. I mean, it looks decent enough. It's effectively replacing that third version we'd get with titles, which I think is a good step in the right direction. It's just a little iffy considering one of the complaints many had with Sword and Shield was a lack of content, and to see this getting announced so quickly after release, I don't know, man. Thank God we're here! And thank God Nintendo forgot February existed, so not much happened this month either. We got some game releases like Mega Man Zero ZX Legacy Collection, Devil May Cry 3, which actually had some additions to it, unlike the first two games, but I bought Sega Ages Sonic 2. I could already play Sonic 2 via the Sega Genesis Classics collection for Switch, but I'm an idiot. You saw I spent a good chunk of my life whining about DLC for Smash Brothers. I had to pick this one up. This is actually a pretty solid version of Sonic 2. It has Knuckles playable, and the emulation is great, but my God, Sega, why don't you just release the mobile phone version on consoles? It's the best version. Also, why doesn't Sega re-release more stuff in general on Switch? Like, they are, but it's the non-essentials. Like, they ported Sonic and Sonic 2 when the Switch already had these games in this giant collection. We got Sega Ages Puyo Puyo 2 when there's already an abundance of Puyo Puyo on the system. Start releasing Sega Saturn or Dreamcast games, or even Xbox 360 stuff. I would kill for Sonic Generations. Speaking of re-releases, Platinum Games launched a Kickstarter to bring Wonderful 101 to Switch, PC, and PS4. I liked Wonderful 101 on Wii U. It definitely deserves a second chance, but this entire Kickstarter kind of gave me weird vibes. Nintendo offered to publish Wonderful 101 themselves, but wouldn't allow Platinum to release it on PC or PS4, which makes sense. But no, they went to Kickstarter when they didn't need to. Nintendo was willing to fund the port. And all of these ports seem to be pretty much done considering they're releasing in May 2020. To me, this Kickstarter seemed completely unnecessary. But hey, I guess it's pretty much a form of pre-ordering, and it got them some pretty decent publicity, so whatever. Finally, Nintendo held an Animal Crossing Direct covering New Horizons, and yep, it looks really good. But other than that, there wasn't much happening in the first few months of the year. Normally this wouldn't be much of a problem, but nothing much at all happened in the gaming industry as a whole, and Nintendo's 2020 lineup is completely up in the air right now. Other than Animal Crossing, Mystery Dungeon, Xenoblade, and Bravely Default, what's there to look forward to?
So that was the Switch's third year on the market. I really enjoyed taking a look back at the year because it reminded me that Yoshi's Crafted World came out. Overall, it was pretty good. Definitely a lot more original first-party titles than in 2018. That year was a little too port-heavy for my taste. Although I would like to see more original titles overall on the system. One of the most noteworthy titles in February is a PS2 game from 2005.
Can I just say,
I don't know. That's not to say Devil May Cry 3
already
isn't
had
a good
Hyrule
game,
Warriors, which was a fun idea, taking the warrior style and applying it to a giant non-canon Zelda fan.
I love
then
that
you
the
have
Switch
Breath of
gets
the
these
Wild,
legacy
which detailed
titles,
this giant battle for
but it
Hyrule between
feels
Link
like
and
that's all
friends
it
and
gets
Ganon
most of
and
the
friends
time.
that took
Now,
place
in
before the game.
2018
So,
was
make a
definitely
sequel to
worse
Hyrule
off for
Warriors
titles.
about
I
it's
still
perfect.
felt more of a
It's a little weird to
passion
have a
for their
non-canon spin-off get a
releases.
sequel
I had a
like
lot
this.
to say about Tropical
Age of
Freeze or
Calamity
Captain
is
Toad on
still a
Switch.
Warriors
And
game
while
at the end of the
2019 was
day,
undoubtedly
fighting off
better,
hordes of
I
enemies. There's some
didn't
strategy
feel that
to
as
combat,
much.
but you can
And
still
if
just
I had
button
to
mash
guess
your way
why,
through it. Even when you take the game
probably
seriously,
because
using
we
all
are
the characters'
legitimately
moves and
very
abilities,
far into the
it
system's
can
life.
still be
I'm just not
fairly
as excited about the
like, just
system
kill all
anymore.
these enemies,
It's
go
not
over
that I
here,
don't
kill
like
these
the
enemies,
system,
go over
far
here.
from it.
However,
It's
unlike
just
the
that
original
it's not
Hyrule
the
Warriors,
shiny new
this one
gadget it
feels
used to be.
so much
And
more
most
like
of
a
my
Nintendo
problems
game.
with the
The last
Switch
game,
have
had
been
Nintendo's input and
constant
approval.
throughout its life.
It's a
My
Nintendo
biggest
game,
problem
but it
is
still
that
felt like it was made
has
by a third
barely
party.
addressed any
which
of
it
my
was.
problems
Age of
throughout
Calamity
the
feels
years.
like it was
The
made by
operating system has
Nintendo.
barely
This looks
changed.
just
I'm
like
not
Breath of the
getting as
Wild.
many
They
original
nailed it.
experiences as I
It's
would want
so
to
much
from
fun to see
Nintendo.
elements of Breath
And
of the
Mario
Wild
and
be
Sonic
reworked to be
2020
movesets
has
in a
one of the
Warriors
worst
game.
box arts
It's
I've ever
cool to
seen
see
in my
what
life.
once was a huge open world reconfigured to be
It
this.
looks
However,
unfinished.
while
I
think it
have
is
no
cool to see
idea
these
what to
environments in
expect for
different
2020,
contexts,
considering
I
the
do
fact that we
feel
are
like
3
the
months
design
in
was a
and
bit
barely
held
know
back by
anything
the
about
conventions
Nintendo's
of
plans or
Warriors
lineup.
games. Just the fact that
I
can't
already
jump
know
over this
that
small
I'm going to
step
get a lot of
and
people
this restricted
saying that
going
I'm
over
being
here
too
or there.
negative,
It
and,
feels
well,
weird with this being
I did
an
whine a
official
lot.
prequel to Breath
I
of
like
Wild.
the Switch.
It's like
I'm
that
just more
game
prone to point
revolutionized
out the
the
things
open
that
world
bug me
genre.
about
So
it.
here's a
I'm also
prequel
not
that
really
feels
one
game
to
I played
freak
on
out and
Xbox
adore
360
every
in terms of
single thing
gameplay
Nintendo
limitations.
does.
But I still had a lot of
but
fun
I'm
with
willing
this.
to
It
give
only
it a
got
try.
annoyingly repetitive to me near the end. They
What
had
the
to fight the same
box
enemy
boy?
3 times in a row.
What
and there
the
was this one
the
moment where, like, 20 different
stretchers?
powerful enemies were
What
swarming
the
me. I just
the
about
Switch
blew a
still
gasket.
exists?
My biggest problem with this game, though, is the story. I don't think it's a spoiler considering this is in the first 2 minutes, but time travel is involved. And right there, that automatically devalues a lot of this game's worth. I got this because I wanted to see what Breath of the Wild said happened 100 years prior. Instead, I get
kinda that with some extra really tart sauce. Like, okay, time travel is involved, so this is a variant of what happened. Like, I already know what happened because I played Breath of the Wild, so that's a plus, I guess, considering I had no idea what's gonna happen now. But I wanted to see what I knew happened in front of my eyes. I think Breath of the Wild fans should still give this a shot. It's still a Warriors game at the end of the day, so I don't think it'll make anybody run out and pick up Warriors Orochi 3 Hyper. But it's an awesome supplemental piece to Breath of the Wild, and I had a good time with it. I didn't buy Bakugan Champions of Vestroia, though. I'm sure even the developers are happy about that. Need for Speed Hot Pursuit Remastered. I like that EA is at least kind of supporting the Switch with decade-old driving games. Hey, these are still pretty fun, and it's given the platform some good racing experiences. Weirdly enough, this came out a week after the PS4 and Xbox One versions, even though it leaked on the eShop and was fully playable months beforehand, so it wasn't like it needed extra time. Family Feud. I love Family Feud games. I don't love this Family Feud game. You can't skip any of the cutscenes or dialogue. I don't need this much animation. Just give me the damn surveys. Why is it so hard for developers to make game show games? It should be pretty simple, but they keep fucking them up. Kingdom Hearts Melody of Memory released at $60.
This is coming from somebody who bought Mario Kart Live.
Sakuna of Rice and Ruin was a bit of a sleeper hit. It always looked excellent, and those who played it seemed to really enjoy it. There was a supposed leak that Metroid Samus Returns was coming to Switch, as this promotional image for a Switch accessory showed a high-res screenshot from the game running on Switch. This was the last thing an intern ever saw. 3D All-Stars was updated again, this time adding support for the GameCube controller and Sunshine. Why do they care this much? This is amazing, but still, you barely do anything, but barely do nothing at the same time. What were the priorities with this game? A sequel to The World Ends With You was finally announced. Neo The World Ends With You, not Neo. It was really strange to me how Square Enix kept hinting at a sequel to this game for years. Pretty much right after it released on the DS, they were talking about a sequel. And only 13 years later, it finally got announced. There was concern whether Doom Eternal on Switch was canceled or not. Oh my god, that's still not out. Yeah, people's pre-orders were getting axed, but it turned out that was merely due to the fact the physical version was being canceled, and Bethesda was simply going for a digital-only release. Well, everybody, let's band together and buy Doom Eternal on Switch to show Bethesda we want more high-quality Switch port. Red button! Yes, the Nintendo Switch firmware was updated to include a new icon on the menu, the Nintendo Switch Online Hub. This is pointless, but kind of fun. Look, I get to see the release dates of all the NES and SNES games online, and it even tells me that Natsume Championship Wrestling released close to my birthday. This is at least evidence that Nintendo plans to do far more with Nintendo Switch Online in the future. I assume more pricing plans will become available, like a $30 a year one where you get more retro systems included like Nintendo 64. But in the meantime, this is just a really red wart. Fire Emblem Shadow Dragon and the Blade of Light, the very first Fire Emblem for the Famicom, got an official localization for the first time ever. What else do you want me to say? You know, it seems like this release may have been planned for Wii U. I mean, look how nice and vibrant NES games look like on Switch's online service. Then look at how stupid and dumb NES games look like on Wii U. Now look at Fire Emblem. Definitely a little closer to how NES games look on Wii U, if you ask me. And I'm pretty good at nailing what's a Wii U Virtual Console game and what's not.
This is all I have.
It's really cool this finally made its way over, and for only $6 at that. I really hope other games that were never localized finally make the jump. This was neat, but to be fair, the first Fire Emblem was remade on the DS, so we sort of got an equivalent before. Let's see some Fire Emblem games that never made it over here in any way, or completely different games. Please, God, completely different games. Immortals Phoenix Rising.
What's that?
It's always nice to see Ubisoft make something that's not totally driven by trends or just what will make them the most money. Immortals seemed like a passion project. Basically, the Ubisoft developers wanted to make their own Breath of the Wild. Well, they did. It's not as good, but it's a high-quality Breath of the Wild type game, if that's your thing. I really don't like the name, though. You could have just called it Immortals or Phoenix Rising. Putting them both together, I think most people have no clue what this game is. The original name, Gods and Monsters, I think was a much better title, but you just run into some copyright problems sometimes. At least they're talking to me. Doom Eternal released, digital only. It runs pretty good, but it's a bit too little too late. It doesn't even include the DLC. You'd think they would at least throw us a bone there for waiting so long. And yeah, it's impressive that Eternal runs well at all here, but I don't know, I think some of the magic of these current gen games running on Switch is sort of gone. I just end up asking, was this really worth it? Was it worth the wait? And honestly, no. I'm still happy it's here. It's just more like, yeah, I guess this is impressive, but I'm just not wowed anymore. Empire of Sin came out. It's about damn time. Everybody remembers this one, right? The game that Nintendo showed at E3 2019 and made everybody go, what was the significance of this game? Why was it a title Nintendo hyped up at E3 and in one of the Nintendo Direct mini partner showcases? Because I didn't see it then, and I sure as hell don't see it now. Collection of Saga. Again, why this border? This is so stupid looking. This really only appeals to those who grew up with these titles. They're old school Game Boy RPGs and they're truly a slog to go through. Oh my god, it's the man brave enough to talk shit about Saga 2, Heiho Densetsu. That's right. Double Dragon Neon, the Bit Trip series all came back on Christmas Day, which was nice. These are some of the most iconic WiiWare games, and Bit Trip Winter is super simple fun. I like it. But of course, we can't ignore Fitness Boxing 2, Rhythm and Exercise. Nintendo publishes these games for some reason, but they're pretty good. I really like Ring Fit Adventure, but it is a bit of a hassle to set everything up. In this game, you just use your Joy-Con and punch the air. Ring Fit's higher quality in nearly every way, but Fitness Boxing is cheaper and easier to jump into and play for just a bit. I don't really see much of a reason to buy this if you have the first, or buy the first if you have the second though. You, Puyo Puyo Tetris 2. It's so good. It's so good. This is one of my favorite puzzle games. I mean, you get two of the best ones together in one package and they're both firing at all cylinders. Like, this is a full-fledged Tetris game. This is a full-fledged Puyo Puyo one. Story mode is a treat, and there's this new RPG type mode where you have party members and online is a blast, and I get my ass kicked by anybody who picks the fucking fish from Puyo Puyo. You can make the argument you don't need this game if you have the first. It's pretty much more of the same with very little improvements. But that's because there wasn't anything to improve, fucker. An Indie World presentation dropping Among Us on the Nintendo Switch that day, plus it showcased Super Meat Boy Forever, which also released in December. It's okay. I really like the original Super Meat Boy, but this was just supposed to be a mobile-only spin-off, and they decided to beef it up to be a console game. The level layouts are randomized, and it just doesn't work as well as the original. I can commend the idea, like, wow, infinite levels! But it's not as tightly laid out because of it, and after waiting a decade for a new Meat Boy game, this one just comes up short. At the Game Awards, it was announced that a new Smash Bros. Character was to be revealed. My money was on Jeff Keighley, and it was Sephiroth from Final Fantasy VII, more or less the same thing. I feel like they added him because, one, he's one of the most iconic villains in gaming, but also, two, it actually gave Final Fantasy VII representation in Smash Bros. For some reason, Square Enix only allowed 2 songs to be included and no spirits, so to have actual content released alongside Seph, that makes me not pissed. Part of me would prefer they pick a different Square Enix character to just get more diverse series represented, but I'm alright with this. It's time. It finally happened. Hitman 3 Cloud version released. Yes! The more I think about it, the less these cloud versions make sense, so it gives Switch owners the opportunity to play these games. But I'm sorry, if you were ever interested in playing Hitman 3 or Control, you probably have a PlayStation or Xbox. And you're gonna need high-speed internet to enjoy these games on Switch. And if you have high-speed internet, I doubt you only have a Nintendo Switch. Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, the game, finally came back. The notorious game lost to time due to being digital only on 360 and PS3 after getting delisted. A physical release was announced, it launched on Nintendo Switch, all is well. That was about it for games released in January. Nobody wanted to go face-to-face with Hitman 3. But we got a few demos, like for Blonde Wonderworld, a new game by Yuji Naka and Naoto Oshima, creators of Sonic the Hedgehog. It's a Square Enix game, but gives off massive Nights into Dreams and Billy Hatcher vibes. It's dog shit. At least the Nintendo Switch version, look at this. It's controlled with one button, even in the menus. They all do the same thing. It looks horrible. It doesn't play well. I'm happy they did a demo so people will save money not buying this, but from their perspective, why did they do one? Monster Hunter Rise got a demo as well, and Nintendo revealed a Mario edition of the Nintendo Switch. This looks really sleek, though. It's literally just red. It's not much of a Mario edition. It's just a red Switch, red dock, red Joy-Con with a blue Joy-Con grip. Good color combinations, but if you wanted to make this specifically Mario themed, you could have added more to it. And finally, the Bowser's Fury portion of Mario 3D World on Switch was revealed. Oh my god. Finally, I can play Super Mario 3D World 8 years later. 3D World is back, and one of the best Wii U ports I think I've ever seen on Switch. It feels like they included and improved every little thing. Something as simple as the Luigi Brothers minigame is still here. The stamps are now fully colorized. The game saving after every level is now in the background rather than right in your face. They even ensured you could still tap and manipulate the environment like you could with the Wii U gamepad. Now you just have to hit the R button and move the cursor around. Every character's walking and running speed has been significantly increased, which makes the game feel legitimately fresh if you already played before. Online multiplayer. It could be better, but it could be worse. There's no multiplayer in the Captain Toad levels, which makes a lot more sense. It was always really weird in such a multiplayer-oriented game. They just said, F your friends, you've got Captain Toad. It runs at a higher resolution. It's on a console that just flat out makes sense for this game. I almost feel like 3D World makes more sense as a Switch game, and Mario Odyssey would have fit the Wii U as the exclusive 3D Mario more. Like, 3D World is all about multiplayer. Put it on the system that has 2 controllers right there. Coupled with the shorter levels, it makes just as much sense as a portable game as it does a console one. Then with Mario Odyssey, I feel like with the map screen you could bring up and a lot of the enemies you could capture, that just feels prime for the Wii U gamepad. At the end of the day though, at least both are now on Switch, and 3D World is better than it's ever been. Back on the Wii U, I felt it was a good game, albeit underwhelming as the only 3D Mario on the platform. Now that we have the big open 3D Mario on Switch, 3D World just makes a lot more sense now, and it's way easier to appreciate it for what it is, rather than what it isn't. But that's only half the story here. I think 3D World's Switch release would have been worth $60 alone. They made a ton of improvements to it to make it worth it in my opinion. Nonetheless, we have a bonus experience, Bowser's Fury. It takes the mechanics of 3D World, but puts it in a Mario Odyssey type environment. Fully controllable camera, wide open areas, you collect cat shines by completing objectives, just like the more open 3D Marios. It's almost like they took a bunch of 3D World type levels, you know, obstacle course type stuff, and spread them around this small open world, and it's just really cool. Every so often, Bowser's Fury is unleashed. Christ, he's pissed. You always have this fear that Bowser's gonna come out at any minute, and when he does, it makes things a lot more hectic. You either wait it out until he retreats, or you can collect a cat shine to scare him off, but if you collect enough shines, you awaken the Giga Bell.
I knew this sounded familiar.
Then you fight off Fury Bowser as my worst fucking nightmare. This is such a cool, new, and original take on 3D Mario. It combines pretty much everything 3D Mario's been in the past and crafts this lovely, smaller game out of it. It's only about 3 hours or so, but were you really expecting much more? 3D World is the main attraction, though Bowser's Fury is the more interesting to discuss as it gets your mind racing. Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury is an incredible deal. I wholly recommend it. I'd recommend it without Bowser's Fury. With? This game needs to be available to all. Nintendo also published Bravely Default 2.
Moving on.
I just don't care. I played the demo, it didn't grab me. But people seem to be liking it, and that's all that matters. Whenever a game like this comes out, I am happy because that means Nintendo will move on to talking about other things. Damn it! Before we get to that, Persona 5 finally released on Nintendo Switch. You can tell by the inclusion of the word Strikers. Persona 5 Strikers is a sequel to Persona 5 that is not a turn-based RPG, rather a warrior-style action RPG. So only 3 months after Hyrule Warriors, we have another game similar to it, though Persona 5 Strikers does deviate quite a bit from the Warriors formula. Combat's similar, but this feels more like a Persona game than something like Age of Calamity feels like a Zelda one. It's a solid title, though I do find it odd how Atlus thinks that people don't want their core RPGs on Switch. If there's an exclusivity contract between them and Sony, sure, I get it, but it seems less and less likely there is. For some reason, they think regular Persona 5 wouldn't do well on Switch, but its sequel that's a hack-and-slash RPG, oh yeah, that'll do well. You can think that way, it doesn't mean I get it. Ghosts and Goblins Resurrection is a solid return for the Ghosts and Goblins series. I think the art style looks nice, so the animation is a little too Adobe Flashy for me. Like, you just see a lot of animation tweens and unnatural-looking movements, but I think the actual art looks quite good for the series. And if you want to see where Ghosts and Goblins started, look in your backyard. Capcom spits a series on everything they can, including the Capcom Arcade Stadium. These kind of compilations don't really excite me anymore, as Capcom has done a ton of stuff like this in the past. Not only that, but many of the top games in here are available elsewhere on Nintendo Switch, like the Street Fighter Anniversary Collection and Capcom Beat 'em Up Bundle. They do this thing where the game download is free, but then you have to pay for pretty much all the games via an in-game purchase, which is fine. That works for mobile phones. I feel like people would rather have the game just flat out say its price on an actual game platform like this. SNES and NES Online got updated this month. Nintendo, where do you get off? Every now and then we get a good month with some solid titles, but now that these apps are updated like every quarter of the year, we wait and get garbage. I personally feel like Nintendo Switch Online has proven its worth. For 20 bones a year, we get more than enough NES and SNES games, but if they want us to maintain excitement for this service, adding the title screen of Fire and Ice to NES Online alongside the rest of the game's box arts isn't gonna cut it. I'd be down for just flat out original Game Boy games at this point. I think everybody's yearning for Nintendo 64, and I agree, but overall, I just want to see more legacy Nintendo content come over faster than this and for an affordable price. Damn it! Well, it's time. After nearly a year and a half, we got our first full Nintendo Direct on February 17th. You know, I always see people freak out at others for being disappointed in or critical of Nintendo. The same people who scolded others for giving Nintendo a hard time for not doing a full Nintendo Direct since September by saying, "What even is a full Direct? You got a Direct Mini, be thankful," were the same people who were overreacting and foaming at the mouth saying, "Yes, a full Nintendo Direct! Nintendo, my fate!" I just get kind of annoyed seeing people freak out about Nintendo announcements, acting like this is the greatest pleasure. This is the best sex I've ever had, and all I did was watch a Splatoon trailer. Anybody criticizing them is just being nitpicky and how they shouldn't go in having such high expectations. Well, then maybe don't hype up Nintendo announcements like they're the 15th coming of Christ. Now, with that being said,
Chibi Robo 6 is coming!
It was good to have these back. Just that feeling of excitement. We were all watching the announcements at the same time rather than waking up at 1 p.m. to Pikmin 3. It was time to be excited for a Nintendo Direct again. So, What did I think?
I bought this. You know my opinion doesn't matter.
This Direct was alright. No matter what, I don't think Nintendo was going to live up to a year and a half worth of build-up, but I think it was okay, though it had a lot of elements of Nintendo Directs I really don't like. The first announcement was of Pyra and Mythra from Xenoblade Chronicles coming to Smash Brothers. You could have said this was Tweedledee and Bernie from Xenoblade 2, and I would believe you. I don't care. This is fine. I mean, were we really not expecting Xenoblade 2 characters here? If they decided to include the characters from Fire Emblem Warriors, that's when I think everybody should have drawn the line. The Xenoblade franchise only had Shulk as a fighter in Smash Brothers. Second, or technically third, these characters transform into each other like Sheik and Zelda. That's fine to me. Of course, the typical anime style has been crowding up a lot of the Smash Brothers DLC slots, so it's totally fair to be like, alright, I don't want pointy hair Keyman, I want the Raisin Bran's son, damn it. However, Pyra and Mythra's inclusion doesn't annoy me that much, considering Xenoblade only had one rep prior. If they already had like 5 or 6 characters, and this was the 7th, that's when I'll be like, alright, stop. Fall Guys is coming to Switch. That was a really popular game over the summer, and then a lot of people stopped talking about it, so it's a good thing it's coming to the Switch in 4 months. The Famicom Detective games are coming over, which is pretty cool. These are remakes of these old Famicom visual novels by Nintendo back in the day. I love how companies have just given up trying to localize things for English instead of calling this the Super Sleuth Detective Club or something. And Nintendo of America just said, F it, we're just calling it Famicom Detective Club. This is such a neat, obscure part of Nintendo's history that's being fully localized for the first time, and I'm all for it. The Monster Hunter Rise system and Pro Controller and Mario Golf Super Rush. I've been waiting for a game with that subtitle forever. So this looks lovely. It's about time something other than Mario Tennis happened. No More Heroes 3 looks promising, but really low resolution. No idea what's going on here. DC Superhero Girls Teen Power, published by Nintendo. It's fine Nintendo's publishing this, just why is it in a Direct? Nintendo made it clear that games like Ring Fit Adventure, Nintendo Labo, their mobile titles, those don't belong in traditional Nintendo Directs because they were for a different audience. So why is this here? Miitopia from the 3DS is coming over, sure. That game was fine, it's just like, why? They're putting loads of effort into this too, like it looks excellent now. I think it's awesome to see Nintendo still cares about Miis. It kind of felt like if they didn't have to include Miis in a game on Switch, they wouldn't. Like they were distancing themselves from the brand, but I think Miitopia is a good sign of things to come. Miis are great, they're way better than the stick figures in Clubhouse games. Project Triangle Strategy, right when I thought we were out of the woods. A successor to Octopath Traveler in graphical design only, really. This one is a strategy RPG instead of a turn-based one. Same sentiment I had towards Bravely Default 2 in that Nintendo Direct Mini. Looks good, but do you really need to have a full 5-minute trailer for this? Anybody who's interested is going to know they're interested within the first minute of this trailer. Nobody's gonna perk their ears up 4 minutes in. Knockout City, not a bad looking game. Basically an online multiplayer dodgeball game. What killed it in this Direct was the trailer. Nintendo, stop playing full trailers for games. Just have your narrator explain it and move on after a minute. Instead, games like Plants vs. Zombies, Battle for Neighborville, Star Wars Hunters, Knockout City, DC Superhero Girls Team Power, Project Triangle Strategy, they all have these full-blown trailers shown, and it's kind of sort of annoying. It doesn't help that their presentation style is kind of weird sometimes. Age of Calamity DLC. Here's a 2-second still frame of everything it comes with, and then moving on. What? Ninja Gaiden Master Collection. Great to see that. Included is Ninja Gaiden 3 Razor's Edge, so that marks one more Wii U game off the list. Devil's Third, your day will come. Eiji Aonuma appears and says that Breath of the Wild 2 info will come later this year, and to me, this says that game is coming in 2022. If it does, it's pretty crazy we've waited about as long as we did for the first Breath of the Wild. That game got its first trailer at E3 2014 and came out a little under 3 years later. Well, Breath of the Wild 2 was first revealed at E3 2019 and we'll probably get it a little under 3 years later. That's fine, but I think it means my expectations are a lot higher here. Breath of the Wild 1, they had to create this entire thing from scratch. 2 is obviously using a lot of 1 as a base, and it's taking just as long to produce. You'd think it would come out quicker, but I'm kind of expecting to be blown away here. In the meantime, we have Skyward Sword HD to hold us over. Yes, Skyward Sword is being remastered for Nintendo Switch. Good for it. It looks clearer now, but very little else looks much better. Wind Waker and Twilight Princess's HD versions felt a lot more dramatically different and improved. I think I've overestimated how much better Wind Waker HD looked in the past. Playing the original, it's obvious they did very little outside of bloom the f*** out of the game, though it still looks great. Twilight Princess, they did a ton more to the game, but it inherently looks worse because its art style doesn't age as well as Wind Waker's. Skyward Sword being a colorful late Wii game, it does age much better, so there really wasn't a ton they could have done to it, so it's whatever. It just doesn't look dramatically better. It's similar to how Mario Galaxy and 3D All-Stars looked. Comparing it to the original, of course it looks a lot better. It's so much more clear, but if you're just seeing footage of the new version by itself, it's not immediately obvious you're playing the upgrade. They retooled the game to work via standard button control, which is good to preserve this game and make it more readily accessible. Skyward Sword's emphasis on motion controls definitely didn't sit well with some, so having the option no matter what is a good thing. But the thing is, this game is $60, and that's just a bit ridiculous. Sure, Nintendo knows they can sell the game at that price because we're all stupid and hate savings, but it's just weird they value this game at the exact same price as Breath of the Wild, and Breath of the Wild 2 when that releases, and a remake like Link's Awakening that also shouldn't have been $60, but had a lot more apparent effort put in. And something like Mario 3D All-Stars, where as low effort as that game was, it was 3 games in one, with one of them being a Wii game as well, with similar levels of changes made. Of course, this being at face value. Skyward Sword HD will probably have more quality of life enhancements, but even with those, this should be $40 max. It's more expensive than it was on Wii at launch 10 years ago, when it was a brand new game. It sounds like I'm really not digging any of this, but I'm not mad. It's just kind of lame to see Nintendo take advantage of the fact they're at the top right now. Instead of pricing things fairly, they think because Zelda's hot right now, they can price a game like this at $60. And they'd be right. It's a weird situation to be in because the same people complaining about this are the same ones who are gonna buy the game. I think it just stings because I love Nintendo. I want to buy their games, and just because they know that, they're gonna take advantage of it. It's kinda lame. The final announcement was Splatoon 3. Okay, Splatoon is great, but it feels odd to have more than one entry per system. To me, it feels somewhat redundant to have 2 Splatoons on the Switch, with both being, well, Splatoon. 3 seems to be taking things in a post-apocalyptic direction, which seems cool, but at its core, it looks like more Splatoon, which is fine. It's just I'm not crazy excited considering I can already play Splatoon on the Switch right now. Of course, I just said how Mario Kart needs a new entry, but that's because Splatoon 2 was a new game. It had a whole single-player expansion. I don't really think the Switch was desperate for more Splatoon. Mario Kart 8 came out in 2014, and we've been nursing on those tracks ever since. Cool announcement, but with Splatoon 2 readily available, it's hard for me to get that pumped up. At least the single-player seems to be more open adventure style. With Splatoon feeling the need to make their world feel as lived in as possible, it was always odd to me the single-player stages were simple obstacle course designs. I felt like an exploration-styled story mode would work well for the series, and we might just get that with 3. That was alright. At least we had a Pokemon Presents later on, showcasing remakes of Diamond and Pearl, Brilliant Diamond, and Shining Pearl. They look very simple and aren't developed by Game Freak, surprisingly. I wish they would have gotten Grezzo. They did the Link's Awakening remake and are working on Miitopia for the Switch. I just feel like while the style is cute, it could use some better detail and lighting effects, like with Link's Awakening. But while Game Freak isn't working on these remakes, they are working on Pokemon Legends Arceus, an open-world take on Pokemon. It's cool to see them try something legitimately new and interesting. It's terrifying to see this frame rate.
And that was the Nintendo Switch's 4th year. A lot of people seem to really hate the lineup this time around. Considering the circumstances, I personally thought it was alright. I think what's the most concerning is the near future. 2021's lineup looks pretty bad. It's pretty much entirely re-releases outside of Mario Golf. And the bigger games Nintendo's hyping up right now are sequels to games we already have on the Switch, which is great, but it does feel a little been there, done that compared to how these games felt when they first appeared on the Switch. I mean, we're officially in the 5-year mark of this system. That's crazy to think, but that's generally the expected lifetime of most platforms. It's not going to be the end of the Switch, but most consoles have a 5-year lifespan. If the Switch is going to continue past that mark, I think a small revision at the very least is needed. I want to be excited by the Switch again, but at the moment, the hardware is just starting to show its age, and it's not as magical as it once was in 2017 and 2018. And plus, Nintendo's getting a bit too egotistical. They've always done whatever they felt like doing, but at least during the Wii U era and the beginning of this one, they felt a lot more humble. Now, they'll charge $60 for anything with a leg on the cover. Just some concerns for the future, but Nintendo is still working harder than a lot of other game companies. They put out more games than both of their competitors, even at their worst. At their worst.